Yeah, yeah. There are still folks that have potential construction careers yet.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's it. Ready? All right. Should we get going with this? Let's do it. Well, good morning. Um, I thank you very much. Happy to be back. So, for those that don't know, I'm Sean Bluebaum. I'm our project executive over the campus expansion here at Royal Oaks for Sunt, and that is Todd Ganter. He's our senior superintendent in charge of the campus expansion. So, um, we are here to give you our monthly construction update. So, as always, feel free to shout out, throw stuff, raise your hand, give us questions, whatever you want to do. All throughout the presentation. It's meant to be as interactive as you guys want it to be. So, as I always do, this is what we're supposed to look like when we're all done, or something there close to that. So that's the rendering. This is what we actually look like as of like a week ago. So it is really coming together. I think one of the things that's pretty cool looking, and I just drove this the other day, is how much these plants have grown and bloomed and how nice they look along that street. So we are getting really close. We have opened this building, this building, this building, and this building, and this building at this point. So, and then a big portion of the garage. So we are starting to see the fruits of everything, and it's fantastic. So as usual, we'll start with a safety share, so we keep safety at the forefront of our minds every day. We will give you a little project overview and update, and look at a lot of pictures. And I was telling these gentlemen down here, we have a lot of pictures of Vita Center this month, because that is the next building that's on the agenda to open, and it's getting really, really close. See, Gretchen, I used your updated advertisement slide too. Good work, Nada. Okay, safety share. I was telling Todd on the way over here, we've been doing this a while now, so we're going to actually recycle a safety share from a year ago, because it is monsoon season again, right? So, so we thought we'd get ready for that and give a little spiel on that. So, obviously, monsoons are a big part of the summer here in Phoenix. They can cause a variety of damage, flash floods. The big winds really cause our construction sites a problem potentially. Oh, we got an angry dog? It's all right. Um, Lightning, dust storms, extreme heat, just all things that affect us in construction because we're working outside. So we want to make sure and keep those in mind. We make fun of our safety professional, Jason, a little bit, because he seems to turn to amateur weatherman this time of year, constantly looking at the radar. Hey, you see this coming? Let's get ready for it. So, but it is something we have to prepare for, because if we don't, we get that. Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, that's fantastic. Well, that's great. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing that. That's great to hear. Yeah, and you guys are likely next month to get another one of those, because our intern for the summer has arrived. So we have a fresh-faced Sam to come show you next month. But this is not our job. This is not a Sunt job. But this is what happens if you do not prepare for monsoons. So it really can cause a lot of problems, especially if you're in a real dense area, right? Nobody needs a sheet of drywall flying off a roof and hitting somebody. That could be a real problem. So we want to make sure and get prepared. We want to have a safety plan, right? We want to establish what that plan is, what we do in case of emergency. We want to monitor the weather. Make sure our housekeeping is really nice and tidy. We really try to focus on that every day. Sometimes it's not as good as we want it to be, but we like to talk about relentless housekeeping, and just every day trying to make sure we pick up after ourselves, secure our loose materials, make sure that we just are ready, right? If we have cranes, lifts, anything in the air, make sure those are down so we know the hazards of lightning are mitigated, and just basically be ready for anything that's going to come. I did actually have a job in Colorado one time that had a tornado touchdown pretty close. We were not prepared for that. I'll tell you that. A bunch of Arizona people looking, what is that? Oh, um, but yeah, here, as long as we prepare for these monsoons, we're usually in pretty good shape. So, Todd, anything on the?
No, going back to Jason, he's always watching the weather, like Sean said, and it's when that lightning comes within 10 miles. Lightning's kind of a crazy thing that it does what it wants to because it's Mother Nature. So that's why we bring the lifts down and bring the guys, that are doing any kind of outside work. We bring them inside the building and make sure that they're not in the possibility of getting a shock from lightning. So
Yeah.
But
Yes,
we're almost out of that kind of business. Yes. Oh, great question. Do we have lightning rods on top of the building? No, we do not. It was not deemed necessary for lightning grounding on this structure. Oh no. Well, good question. But the engineers have gone ahead and analyzed that and said that lightning protection on this type of structure was not necessary.
Good.
Yes.
How do you detect lightning 10 miles away?
The question is how do you detect lightning 10 miles away? Real simple. There's an app out there. I usually kind of look out at the horizon and see what it looks like because I don't like too many apps on my phone. But that's why we got Jason. Jason's he's the guy that comes running in and it says it's 12 miles away. I go, cool. We got 2 miles of buffer. Let's keep working. That's what we have to do. So then he only starts getting really up in arms when it starts getting to like 9 miles and he starts really poking me.
He does get really nervous. He's got his radar going. He's like, Todd. So it's pretty entertaining to watch him be a weatherman, actually.
Yeah, it's difference between new school and a little bit more older school because we never had lightning protection when I worked outside. We just worked and we just like, well, all right, steer clear. But I guess it's the right thing to do, right? I mean, I'm not trying to blow it off as a joke. It is really serious. Lightning strikes, can hurt or injure or even worse to folks. So, we should be making sure we don't put people in the way of a potential lightning strike.
Yeah. So, okay, any other questions on that before we get into the update? All right, so we'll start off with the drone flight. It's a combined for Inspirata and Vita. We don't need 2 anymore. We have a bunch of still shots after this, so we'll narrate a little bit, but mostly just watch the video.
Excellent. So where you can see we're over the courtyard, looking at the north elevation of Building D, and then we're currently now over Building F. Still continuing to look at the Building D. We put a trash chute up this last month, so you can see that we're in the process of getting more stuff ready for site work, getting things cleaned up. It's amazing how this video is only 2 days old, but the site looks way different because we started our earthwork package out there now, our final dirt work package and hardscape operations. This is another north elevation of the west wing of Building D. We've got a lot of the handrail and we got all the brackets on for the sliding sunshades. So a lot of the outside work is looking complete. Since then, all the trash is off all the patios and down to that trash chute. And then this is the north elevation of Building E. That's where the dog park is going to start being constructed here in the next 6 weeks. So that's coming for Fido and friends. And then around the south side of Building E, you can see we've got a lot of handrail complete as well. Just the balcony shades remaining on those. They're all sitting on the ground right there, ready to go in. Again, over the courtyard, we're in there grading now for the folks that live in Buildings B and C. We apologize for any noise that we've got going on over there. But we have to get our job done and get out of here so we can make it look all pretty with the landscaping. So thank you for your patience. This is we call it the West Loop Road. On the right-hand side is Banner, and the left-hand side is Inspirata Pointe. And as we circle around here, You can see that we still have just a little hole in the fence so we can get our products and construction materials across from what we call banner land over to the job site, as we're running out of storage quickly with the more landscaping and hardscape work that we do. And then now we're back over the ramp to the garage, and then
Bocce ball.
nope, bocce ball's over one building.
over
It's
one
over
building.
one more. Yeah, it's on the other side. It's on the north side of Building D. But here's Vita Center, so it's looking really great. Great progress over the last week. Trees and plants and bushes and things in now. Getting ready for the fine grade of landscape and all the decomposed granite, which is the ground cover. That stuff is here. You can see when you see stuff like all those components sitting outside, that means we're cleaning the building out. Scissor lifts, everything must go sale. So we're pushing everything outside the building so we can do flooring and all the rest of the finishes inside there and getting ready for fire alarm testing and substantial completion here. So this is a view over the cul-de-sac. That does not pave. It becomes a decomposed granite. It's got a gate on it, so it's just a turnaround for the fire department because their trucks don't have reverse. So, but you can see we got all the rooftop mechanical equipment. We've gone through and doing the test and balance and all the startup components over there. The inside of the building you're going to see here in a few minutes. The pictures look amazing. So again, it's the final push to beautify the outside and get the landscaping buttoned up and get it ready for Royal Oaks to occupy and get ready to use that. So it's like we were never here, right? Almost? Just kidding. One more month we can say that. But wow, Glenn's pushing the limits of what his flight elevation is. Don't tell anybody. It's clearly under 500 feet.
Yeah, yeah.
So, any questions on the flight so far, or just go through some of the progress photos? And if you guys have any questions along the way, feel free to fire away. Yes.
What time was that video taken?
He took that on Sunday. God,
9 a.m., 10 a.m.
yeah, or
maybe?
mid-morning. Yeah, I was gonna say, I believe. You think it was afternoon? It could be. He told me Sunday. We had so we had a happy hour for Glenn. On a side note, Glenn is off to his next assignment at the Arizona Biltmore, but he agreed during happy hour to keep coming out and shooting drone shots and taking videos for us once a month. So unfortunately, he forgot to do it this month, and so yeah, so he came out on Sunday to take that for us, so we'd have it for today. So not sure what time. So, okay, so let's get into some photos here. So this is building D&E, or I'm sorry.
Yes.
This,
Yeah,
yeah,
D&E.
D&E.
Yeah, you got it.
D&E. I
You
got
got
it
it.
right.
If we pause, we're still talking. We talk
Yeah.
all day long to other trades about which building it is, and we use different wings.
Yeah.
Because to us, this is building C1.1, 1.2, and C2.
Yeah.
So we have to. Sorry for the hitch. in
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
up
My
sometimes,
apologies. D&E was the restaurant, which is now F&G. So this is now D&E.
but yeah.
So I just got a few outside shots of this. I actually zoomed in on one of the drone shots because I thought it was a really cool view of just that whole panoramic of that building. And then this is our gas line that we've been working on for a while, and pretty interesting from a construction perspective. This gas line's been a real challenge, but we're past the hurdle now, we think. And actually we've talked a lot about the county being somewhat
Particular.
challenging,
Okay.
yeah, at times. Particular is probably a better word. But they actually worked with us on this and are granting us an exception to a building code to be able to put this gas line where it needs to go to best service Royal Oaks and this building. So it's pretty interesting, and they've been really workable with that. So it's been nice. And then that is a brand new shot as of, I believe, this morning, either this morning or yesterday afternoon, of some balconies that have their handrails and everything all sort of spruced up there. You can see some of the sliding shades and things, and that's taking place all over this building. This I took from the construction camera last night. The construction camera is perfectly suited for about the next month because that's what's happening. That's where a lot of action is happening. So please feel free to go on there and take a look. But essentially, all around the fountain, you're seeing grading and you're seeing getting ready for. There's a bunch of concrete and there's these big planter boxes and trees and things that have to go in there. As Todd said, apologize to those that live in B and C in those units for any sort of you know,
Disruption. That
disruption.
Yeah,
That's the
we're in
word
your
I'm looking
guys'
for.
almost in your living room for Pete's
Yeah,
sakes. So
but-
we're sorry.
but
But
yeah.
after we get the dirt work to a rough grading standpoint, we're going to take the fence line that's around here, which is on the south side of Building B, and then on the fence line that's on the east side of Building C, we're going to go ahead and put a mesh screening up there. Number one, to I'm not going to say it's going to buffer the noise, but hopefully it'll buffer some of the light when we go through and do some early morning concrete pours. We've been in constant communication, giving Royal Oaks approximate dates of when these things hit. They move a little bit depending upon workflow and capabilities of getting material. But the concrete that actually goes down is a integral colored concrete. It's called graphite. For a colorblind guy like myself, it looks really close to black. But so it's kind of unique because in the summertime we always suffer the challenges of warm weather here in Arizona. And for those of you that know anything about concrete, it's a chemical reaction. So concrete doesn't dry, it cures. So when Portland cement is enacted by water, it creates a chemical reaction, so it cures. That curing process creates heat. And so does the sun when it rises. So we're battling two things. And then, of course, you tack it on the fact that the concrete color is black. Black is the most absorbent color, right? So therefore, now we have three elements that we're battling here between the chemical reaction, the weather temperature, and the actual sunlight itself heating the concrete up. So therefore, our concrete pours get a little bit smaller, but we have to do them preferably before the sun rises, because if we don't, we have to do smaller and smaller pours, and it just becomes more laborious, and it takes us longer to get out of an area. So that's kind of what's going to be happening as a broad overview. Whoa.
Hey,
Check one.
whatever you're saying. Just
Wow,
got twice
that must
as
have really been
interesting.
important. Yeah, I just wanted to
fantastic.
drive that message home that we're trying
Yeah.
hard to get out of there. So,
Yeah, Todd's right. So this will be pretty much June in this area, and then they'll work their way around and out of there in through the month of July. And so it's the next couple months. You're going to see a lot of hardscape and grading and things in and around with the water features and down adjacent to the buildings. So, any questions on that? We know it's right in some people's front yards, backyards. Yes, ma'am.
uh, so the question was, since we're doing this earthwork operation in the middle of the courtyard, there's been some vibration that's been happening through the operation of having the heavy equipment out there. And the question was, are these buildings designed to shake? Yes, they are, right? So we're not here to, and by the way, when we're done with the earthwork package, I promise you the shaking will go away. We are the ones that are causing that, and it's not an earthquake. Please don't get scared. But there, just a operation of heavy equipment traveling across the ground does create some vibration. It is not a concern. There's nothing wrong with it structurally. Just the way these buildings are built, because there's a layer of dirt between the parking garage and the buildings. It's a great pathway or a conduit, if you will, for vibration to travel through that dirt, and it will end up in the structure. Sometimes if we're doing operations 200, 300, 400 feet away that are vibratory operations, you can still feel them in adjacent structures. So it's not going to collapse. No. We've had plenty of inspections by the county. This thing is over-designed, and we are in great shape. Please don't be nervous.
And I would think that the heaviest of equipment is pretty much just this week. Like there'll be a concrete pump when we place concrete. There'll be some things like that are one-offs. But this is the most disruptive that it should be, is this week with the big equipment.
Yeah, and this week, unfortunately, is while we're doing this, it's an all-day operation, right? It takes us all day to be working in there because we're doing it for 3 or 4 consecutive days. Now, I'm not going to say that after this week is done, we won't have any vibration. That is not what I said. We will have a little vibration here and there, but it'll be more intermittent because we will have some equipment in there, but it's not going to be operating for 7 or 8 hours a day. So, well, yeah, maybe if they slow down, I'll make sure I check with them because we have had plenty of conversations about making sure they're not exceeding the job site speed limit. And although that everybody wants to do production and get out of here, we do need to create less vibration if we can do it. So I'll thank you for the information. I'll pass it along. Yeah. Yes, sir. The question is there an earthquake rating for the building? So I would have to check the general code compliance sheets, but the area that Phoenix is in is not typically considered a seismic zone. Seismic zones do immerse in, they become evident when you get towards Yuma. And then obviously over in California, that's a completely different story. But in the Phoenix area, there is a code requirement that classifies, and it's for any portion across the country that indicates what classification or seismic zone that you're in. Therefore, the engineers, whether it's all engineers actually, so it's not just structural engineer that has to design for seismic, plumbing, electrical, mechanical, fire sprinkler, they all have to design for seismic too, because there's components like slip connections and bridges where you have expansion and contraction and things like that. There are in various locations. I've been in El Paso, Texas before, where there's a lot different seismic requirements than there are here in Phoenix. So that's all been taken into account and built into the structure accordingly. So, all right.
Let's move on. So in that building, in our last buildings, D&E, you're going to find anywhere from this stage of construction to this stage where the drywall's just gone up, to areas that are taped, all the way to areas that are finished. Bless you. So depending on what wing of that building you're in, that's you're somewhere either like that or like that, right? There are areas that look pretty much like you could move in within the next couple of weeks, and then there are areas that look like we've got quite a ways to go. So the crews are just working their way from one wing to the next wing and making their way through. So we have some beautiful units that you could go in right now that look like that in that last building that are really far along. So
yeah, so good milestone. Yesterday we were able to we got released from the county. Green tag is what we call it. We passed our inspection for electrical. For not only the vertical riser through the building, but also the horizontal line for second floor. So we have permanent lights burning on second floor, and we have air conditioning. And that's really great because that allows us to climatize the building. And by tomorrow, we will have a crew of approximately 12 guys putting flooring down on the second floor of building D. We call it the West Wing. So that's our next location of really starting to get the next line of finishes moving along.
all right. Any questions on that last building? Like I say, I don't have a ton of pictures because they'd all be the same. they'd look somewhere between there and there,
Yeah,
right?
It's very true. And it depends upon, like, you can be in one floor and go up to the next floor, and it can look totally different.
Yeah.
So, again, we're methodically working our way from the west wing over to the north and from first floor up through fourth floor. So things are moving right along. We've got lots of inspections for final mechanical, electrical, plumbing observations, in wall and above ceiling with the county. That releases us to go through and do our installation of insulation. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Yeah. So we have to go through and we fulfill the ceiling cavity, and then we fulfill all the walls. And then the county has to come back out and inspect that because it's, one, part of the fire rating assembly, and two, because we're within 5 miles of the flight line of Luke Air Force Base, and there's a requirement within Maricopa County that if you're within 5 miles of the flight line, you have to have acoustical insulation inspected as well. So it's a double inspection for thermal and acoustics. They come back out, check that, make sure everything's all filled for draft stop and all the other components, and once they give us a green tag, then we go ahead and start doing all the final sheetrocking, which is that far left picture over there.
So everything Todd talked about is right there, right?
Yep.
To here.
Correct.
So Yeah, and one of the things they're checking, and I know we've had questions on it in the past, is they're physically checking to make sure that when he says full filled, that insulation is all the way up and fills the entire cavity.
Yeah,
So,
there's some pop-outs in the sides of the buildings that, number one, provide architectural features. Number two are structural because they'll pick up an edge of a balcony. And number three, they're vertical pathways for 8-inch diameter storm drains. But we have to go through and fill those cavities. They're probably 4.5 to 5 feet, probably closer to 6 feet deep, that we have to fulfill those cavities because that's a draft stop, keeps any kind of vertical fire. If there was an event that happened, it would keep the draft from going vertical through a quote-unquote chase or a column. So those are the kinds of things that they're actually, they're taking a rod and they're poking back in there. Can they feel insulation all the way back that 6 or 7 or 8 feet? So very, very thorough inspections.
any questions on this? All right. So let's get into some of the Vita Center stuff. I know obviously people aren't moving into Vita Center, but hopefully a lot of you will have the potential to see it, use it, and
Enjoy it.
enjoy it. Yeah, because it's getting ready to open. So Vita Center has final inspections scheduled for late next week. So it is, from a construction standpoint, it is getting very, very close. We've had several landmines over the past couple weeks with it that the team over there has really done a great job of sidestepping and keeping to progress. So I'm excited to show you these pictures. As Todd said, we're doing a lot of landscaping right now. There's a lot of people over there getting ready to put in decomposed granite and those type of things. This is the main entryway. And as you go in, here's the main lobby and hallway. So super nice. Never mind these. I promise we'll paint those. But you've got offices. You've got this is the big physical therapy, occupational therapy area. There is the pool in the ground.
The hydrotherapy water feature.
I'm sorry, hydrotherapy spa, not pool. And you can see all the rule-on ceiling is in there and whatnot, and it really turned out nice. This is, again, sort of an office area and shower. You've got some locker rooms. I was asked yesterday what this is. Anybody know what this is?
Oh.
It's a
ding, ding,
swimsuit
ding.
spinner.
It is a
there you
swimsuit
go.
spinner. Nice.
So
Good
for
win.
those that haven't used those, they're great. You take your wet swimsuit, you pop it in there after you change, close the lid, spins it around like a salad spinner, and gets all the water out, and then you take your swimsuit back out, and it's almost dry. So
And then you put it outside in the sun for 38.5 seconds, and it's completely
yeah,
scalding hot.
yeah. Or you could just walk outside, right? But yeah, no, these are really cool. So that's what that guy is. You got a bathroom, landscaping. This should be called Lone Tree. It's
Beautiful.
Yeah, very nice, right in the middle. And then this is just a little bit more of a blow up of the pool. So underneath here is about 6'8" high
No, it's not.
basement area. Yeah, it is.
Oh, I wouldn't be able to walk in it if it was straight 6'8". It's a head knocker for me at the beam locations, but in between,
it is 6'8".
where
in
there's
between.
nobody running down there. I'll tell you that. Definitely
So-
not my height.
I assumed that people would not run straight into beams when I said that. So you're right. It is 6'8", but there are beams, so don't run into those if
Yeah.
you happen to be down there.
Yeah.
So this has been a labor of love, this pool area. So we're pretty proud of that. Yes, sir. It is. Thank you. Yeah, the question was, is this the one that was dropped in from above? It is. So this thing came in over the top and set down, and then the beams that Todd is hitting his head on are all around it, sort of holding it in place.
Yeah, it's an amazing design of piping and electrical and conduits and all sorts of really neat mechanical stuff down there. Neat for a kind of a construction nerd like myself, but there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of man hours that were spent down there getting all the piping going because we have different chlorination systems and chemical filtration systems, and it's really impressive the amount of work. Unfortunately, maybe for next month we can grab a photo of what some of that stuff looks like down there because it's kind of cool. It's not going to really be it's not open to the public. It's going to be Royal Oaks maintenance folks will be going in there, but it seems like, well, you guys just dropped the pool in like 2 months ago. How come it's not done? Well, there's a lot of work that happens to hook up a pool filtration system and components. So
Yeah. yeah. So um, that is pretty much the Vita Center. Any questions on that? Yes, ma'am. So the question is when we will think that building will be completed. From a construction standpoint, we have scheduled our final inspections for the end of next week. So it is very, very close. Now, there are a couple of things that are playing into that. One is we don't have approval from the grading and drainage at the county yet. So that could potentially, that there's a couple of bureaucratic items that could potentially string that out a little bit. But from a construction standpoint, it's got about a week or two left. So it is very, very close. So they're doing startup right now. They're balancing the units. They've got God, I think the water softener finally is going to show up Friday. That's been our latest challenge. Is that thing was lost in transit somewhere, but it's supposed to show up Friday. So yeah, Kelly and Sarah are over there, just getting after it every day to try to get to that date next week. So
Sean, I'd like to add, though, that some of the equipment that Royal Oaks is expecting for the building isn't coming in until August.
Yeah.
So we do have some delays with some equipment that was ordered at the beginning of the year in January, and it was supposed to come in when the building was complete, but unfortunately, it's been delayed a little bit.
Yeah.
So we'll get through the summer, we'll perfect everything in there, do some training in there, move in there, and then hopefully everything will be done by the end of the summer.
yeah, thank you, Gretchen, for adding that. Yeah, we had some flooring also that all of a sudden doesn't seem to exist. Can't get it. So we've got some temporary flooring going down. So there's been, when I say there's been some landmines, there's been a lot of that kind of stuff, which we've all been dealing with for like 3 years. So we've gotten pretty good at working around it, but yeah, some of that stuff's just not going to be here yet. Any other questions on Vita? All right, let's talk about upcoming work. I left this picture for upcoming work because it shows the courtyard and all through here, which is a lot of what you're going to see.
Yeah, perfect. So just kind of a little recap what's happening over between now and when we meet next time. We'll be in the courtyard here between buildings B and D, and obviously C off to the background there. So we'll be working our way out that way. On this side over here is where the bocce ball court is. We're going to be doing the grading this week. And then we'll start the hardscape after we kind of work our way out of it. We paint ourselves out of a corner instead of into a corner. It's a very important process. On the exterior side, you can see we've got some boom lifts and things like that. We're still buttoning up the last little bit of balcony rails. Like this balcony rail is going to be some of the last stuff that goes in, because you can see in this picture we were loading door frames in there. We're using that vertical section as our last little loading zone, if you will. So as we work our way around the building towards those loading zones, we'll button those up last, but that's our last little bit of stuff to be doing. Again, you can see we're doing handrail in the next couple weeks up on this 4th floor balcony, because we're currently doing the floor tile out on the patios. So that's kind of the stuff that's happening on the outside of the building. In probably the next 4 to 6 weeks, we should be done with the boom lift industry, so then the monsoons can come and bring lightning, and we won't have any concerns about it. On the inside of the building, as Sean mentioned, it's a myriad of stuff that's happening over the next 4 weeks. We'll have the entire stack of building D West Wing. That'll be all energized and have all the flooring in, and we'll be going through and doing the mirrors and medicine cabinets and grab bars and closet shelving and all the other finished trim stuff that goes on in there. And then over the next 4 weeks, we should be pretty darn close to topped out with sheetrock in the north wing of building D. That's the production sheetrock. We're going for 3rd floor inspection today. And then I think 4th floor inspection happens at the tail end of next week, thereabouts. We've also got lots of opportunities over the next 4 weeks for a lot of the production sheetrock, which is the final sheetrock inside building E. We passed our inspection yesterday of our final mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire sprinkler stuff. Then we got our insulation operation that's going to commence this week, and that floor will open up middle of next week for mass production of sheetrock. Down the corridors, we're framing ceilings and getting the last little bit of components up in the the corridors of the mains and the pathways there. So we're getting the framed ceilings in, and then we're hanging all the sheetrock down the corridor. So we're in a really big sheetrock business for a while. We're producing lots of waste, and that's why we put that trash chute in on the south side of the bridge.
Yeah, and
So-
Todd, let me go back a couple pictures because it's interesting operation. So when we get to this point where the mechanical, electrical rough-in has been inspected, the insulation has been inspected, that upper layer is what we call pre-rock that has to be inspected, and then they drop in this framing and put in all the kitchen lights and the air, all the ductwork and all that kind of stuff. When we get to this point, they bring in, Todd keeps talking about production sheetrock. They bring in what they call production sheetrockers. And these men and women, they get paid by the unit, not by the hour. And so they need whole units, and they need enough whole units out in front of them that they're not going to work themselves out of work 2 days into it, right? So when Todd says we're getting ready to have a lot of sheetrock operations, what that means is we are far enough along in all three wings that those guys can just go unit to unit to unit and not stop. Right. And so it takes a lot to get to that point to where we've got enough runway that those guys will actually come and really get after it. And so, yeah, we met with them. We meet with them every week, their company, but we met with them on Monday and went through all of these different areas. And we're going to see a pretty large increase in manpower, we think, now that we have these buildings to that point. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Great question. So the question was earlier on we had a problem with supply of sheetrock. We mitigated that problem early on. As soon as they gave us a warning, I pulled the trigger and I said, get it all here. We were all roofed in and dried in on the outside of the building. So possession's 9/10 of the law. So I wanted to possess as much sheetrock as I could. We did get one truckload last week. It was some corridor sheetrock. But right now, just like all the cycles of different various building products, sheetrock isn't a hot commodity right now. It's very attainable. It's very short term to go ahead and place an order and have it within 3 or 4 days. Back when we had the problem that you're referencing, we were 6-8 weeks out on sheetrock. So they've the production side's really sped up. I think interest rates have also helped adjust that nowadays because the housing market is down a little bit. So therefore they're not using as much sheetrock in the housing side. So therefore it's more available on what we call the commercial side. So
yeah,
good question. But yeah, we don't have a problem with sheetrock. It's all here. We're ready to go. All we need is a blessing from the county to go and hang, and away we're off and running.
Well, and we've been told, going to be a pretty busy summer for sheetrock. So I could see that potentially happening to other people down the road. But as Todd said,
Not us.
We have all ours. So, but yeah, we've been told it's this building is essentially sharing the same workforce in the sheetrock as homes, right, and large housing tracts. So when you see those, when that gets really busy, that's when we tend to have some issues with that kind of thing. So, good question. Any other questions? All right. This is our favorite slide every month. June with Vita, as we talked about. This in progress, I believe I've been saying for the past couple months, August, September, that is still the case. We are tracking right in the middle of September right now for the last building. As I said, this wing right here, that's the one that looks finished in half the units, right? That's well ahead of that August, September date. But we cannot open just that wing, right? The county's not going to allow that. So when I say these dates, that's for really, the entirety of the building to be able to be done, construction-wise. That does not mean people are moving into it in August and September. Just work that. That's just the construction side of things. So, any questions on that? Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
So the question was, I made a statement that could have been partially confusing about the components that SundtConstruction is putting in. And I said lights and grab bars and things of that sort. So to further clarify my statement is during the blue fingerprint process that residents were invited to partake in, if resident had selected that I would like a grab bar here and a grab bar there, it then turned around and became part of SundtConstruction's contract to put in. So we have to go unit by unit because every unit is different. Some units are not sold yet, and those that are, person A may have selected something different than person B. So we have to go through every unit to make sure that we have all the components in. We can't just go put grab bars and everything because not every unit was selected to have grab bars. So those that have selected to put grab bars in, we're at the time frame in the west wing of building D that we can go through and put those if that was a resident selection item. Does that better clarify the question? Gotcha. Gotcha. So yes, if you were not the one that was able to pick out the unit, we had time frames for when these item selections were needed to be required by the resident moving in. And if you didn't make that time frame, then there are provisions to go through and pick those with Royal Oaks, and Royal Oaks' staff will come back through and put those in after we get substantial completion, or with certain components that we allow them to come in. For example, grab bars is a simple one. The building official isn't going to have a problem if we allow Royal Oaks to come in and put those in afterwards. Now, moving walls and making major changes, that's something that needs to happen after we have substantial completion. But if you, I guess the nicest way to say it is, we didn't make the initial cutoff time frame and you're still wanting those things, then those will get worked out with Royal Oaks Facilities side. Is that clear enough? Okay, thank you. I'm not a salesperson, but I try like heck. All right, great question. Yes. Oh yeah, the fun building. Gosh, that's a great question. So as Sean said, when it comes down to construction, we have back on the 24th of May, we received our full certificate of occupancy from the county. We also had gone ahead and passed our entire health department inspection. So at that point in time, our contractual obligation as the builder is full and complete. So what that means is they allowed, prior to full occupancy and full certificate of occupancy, we were allowed to go through and let Royal Oaks bring in certain things. So whether it was dishware and things of that sort, and like the chemical treatment guy that comes in and has the dishwasher soap back at the dishwasher station in the back of the kitchen, any kind of those build-out things that are not part of Sundt's scope of work, but are part of Royal Oaks' operational needs, we were allowed to bring those things in. We had a hurdle at one time to go over and fly an individual out of, he worked for the office on the East Coast, but flew out of Texas to come do the hood startup. There's 2 Halton hoods in there, one for each kitchen. They require a specific manufacturer startup. When he was here, he went through and we did the integration test between the shutdown of the hood, the ramp up of the exhaust system, and the shutdown of the mechanical units, and that all ties to the fire alarm system. So that was a really big day, very exciting stuff. We did pass that inspection when that individual was out here from Texas. That gave us the final fire marshal approval, and then after that, we had to go through and finish up the last couple components that were identified by the health department inspection. So throughout the construction process, Maricopa County does a really good job of trying to make sure they don't hit us with surprises or gotchas at the end of the job. So we go through and we do a 30% inspection. Then we go through, and once we have 70% of the kitchen completed, like the equipment and all that stuff in, they come out and do another inspection. That 70% is when we're really close to being done. And they go through and they identify, hey, we'd like another vacuum breaker here, or this needs to change, or this needs to get caulked, blah, blah, blah. They give us this list. Then we go through and execute that list, and we get on the schedule for the 100% final inspection. He came out to do the 100% final inspection. Surprise, he missed a couple things in the 70% inspection. So we had to add more things for him. So we had to run around and find those components, and then we had to reschedule the final inspection. But it's kind of a neat integrated effort between us and Royal Oaks, because not only did we have to provide the things that Sundt is responsible for, but there's various things in the employee lounge, like there's a there's a Coke dispensing machine and there's a soda dispensing machine. That does not fall under our contract, but as far as the health department is concerned, they needed to have that in. So we worked with Royal Oaks diligently to get on Coke's schedule. Those guys were out like almost 6 weeks. We thought we had it we thought we were ahead of the curve, and we were clearly behind it. So we had to wait for that to happen, and then we made all the provisions to bring everything together. So long story, I'm sorry to ramble on, but there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes that everybody's like, well, the building's done. How come we're not eating there? Well, we finally have all those components put together, and now Royal Oaks is, and I call it the break-in time, right? They're going through and they're testing everything and making sure it all works so that when you guys get the green light and the floodgates open, you guys are allowed to go over there and eat, like everything works perfect. So I'm going to kind of lean on Gretchen for a little bit of time frame because I don't know when Royal Oaks is going to, cut the ribbon and let everybody in. So if you could enlighten us, maybe.
Yes, so actually, watch for a notice from Chris Dressel, our food service director. He'll be sending out a notice, and he'll attach the latest and most recent menus for Copper Sky and Indigo Kitchen. But we are hoping to have both of those venues open this month.
Ooh.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Fingers crossed.
Awesome.
All right. Any other questions? It's pretty much all we got, Todd. Unless you got anything else from this angle, I wanted to show this angle just because we hadn't really, other than the flyover, we hadn't really stopped in this area at all. But
No, we've got most of the grading done around the north side of Building E, with the exception of the gas line that's runs parallel to Building D there. But so we're starting to mobilize the landscape force, and we're doing trenching for landscape irrigation, and we'll be getting geared up to be putting trees and plants and all that other stuff in as we come around the building. But again, that's kind of a choreographed operation between landscaping and when we get the last little bit of exterior elevation stuff done with the sunshades and the balcony rails and things like that. So that's really the only thing that probably didn't mention there. I did throw a little shout out to the dog park. That's coming soon.
Yeah.
That's on the schedule. That'll be in the July time frame that we'll start doing that. If we build that thing now, we'll 2-block our way, not being able to get back into the north side of Building E. So that's why it's not happening right now. But the water line is outside the building there and ready to go ahead and hit the water station for the dogs. Yes, ma'am.
good question.
Gotcha. Great question. So what's been going on at the other dog park? Again, for those of you that have four-legged friends, thanks for putting up with our disruption. We had a kind of a slight discrepancy. The drawings didn't provide very good clarity in volume 1, and I guess I can take the blame for not asking the question when we did the grading. We had a little bit of hump in the middle, and so the water inlets that were coming in, it had to fill up a bit before it could get over to the drain. And that was less than ideal, so we decided that instead of going through and regrading it and making some of the slopes over there steeper, that we would leave the hump that was in there, and we would go through and trench in and put a connection from a drain where all the drains come in on, I guess it would be the southeast corner over there, up towards the north side. So we helped put in, I guess if you want to call it like a transfer or an equalizer pipe. That's what we did, because going back through and reshaping the slopes and making them even steeper than they already are, I wasn't comfortable walking on them, but I don't have 4 legs either, so the dogs may have been fine with it, but I didn't think it was fair if anybody had to go down there and pick up after their dog. So we decided to leave the slopes the way they were, add that transfer equalizer pipe, and then we had to put sod back in. So it's just it's the right thing to do to make the system better. And it passed county inspection, but we didn't like it, so we went in and improved it.
It was, some of these things are on paper. It looks like it'll work, and then it rains, right? And they were like, oh,
That's
there's
how
a bunch
it
of
works.
water sitting over there, right? So that's sort of what happened with that dog park. And then we were trying to find a time when it was not as disruptive to go ahead and go in and try to resolve that issue.
No, we didn't want a
No.
dog pool, but we had to. But
No.
Sean's right. We did have to time it, right? We usually get the winter rains, and then we had to time it between that and the monsoon season. So that's kind of why we selected that time frame. So we're sorry for the disruption, but as the grass grows back, everything should be a-okay from here on out.
Good question.
Any other questions?
Anything else?
Yeah, we're a little bit shorter. We have less buildings to talk about, so we're going to rely on you guys for more questions.
Yeah.
But yes. Oh, that sounds like a stipulation. Thin ice.
We are quite a ways away from that. We're a little ways away from that. Yes, yes, but definitely we can reach out and schedule that as the time draws near.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. It was a comment about us missing blank cover plate or some sort of switch plate in the lobby down in the basement of Building C. I'll look into it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe, just so from a safety standpoint, that was there for low voltage, not power. So I don't think there's danger there. But I know that Lisa, who we've brought to this a few months ago, Lisa is, she has a list of all of those type of things down there in the basement that she just started working on. So
Yeah,
we'll make sure.
I think if Sean's kind of gone through my Rolodex of memory for me, that there was some original details that were on the contract drawings that said we had to provide a box there that we roughed in for low voltage, and then we through the attrition of being able to go through and create better hardware systems for the doors, that those boxes, although they were indicated to be installed in the contract drawings and we put them in as they were there, the design of the new hardware negated the need for those. So therefore, it more than likely become a blank cover
Just
plate.
blank,
But
yeah.
we will make that happen quickly. Thank you for the heads
yeah,
up.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Thanks for the extra eyes. We try and catch it all, but we're human. We miss stuff. So appreciate it. We'll get it taken care of.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Correct. Yeah. So the question is in June we were planning on doing corridor sheetrock. So basically all the corridors, we call them 12 corridors, right? There's 3 different wings of the buildings between D and E, and there's 4 floors. Therefore, that's how we get to 12 corridors. Right now, we're in the process of getting they're quick inspections, but the building official wants to go through and make his last checks to go through and do the corridor sheetrock. So it's the vertical face of the sheetrock that happens on the wall. Basically, it's the wall sheetrock as you go down the corridor. That we've kind of by design have pushed that off sort of towards the end, because there's no point in putting sheetrock up on the wall, taping it and finishing it, and then we take all the cabinets and stuff through there, and somebody that's not paying attention turns the cart and bumps the sheetrock, and now we've got a patch to do. So we've put it off more towards the end. We're at a point right now that we're getting signed off, and while we have these, Sean was alluding to the production sheetrock guys, they can come down through and hang all the corridor sheetrock. If you have seen pictures or recall pictures from the past, it's called a top-out piece, really. So it comes from the structure down to below ceiling line. And we've installed those way early on. The reason you do those early on is so that way you can get everything fire taped and caulked and everything up there, so you can put all your overhead utilities up there. And then basically you have and it's a production piece, it's just from the ceiling line, what would be the finished ceiling line, most likely acoustical grid. From that ceiling line down is the last bit of sheetrock we have to hang in those corridors. So that's what we plan on doing for as we get these things. We just got one corridor signed off yesterday, and Corbin is going to be taking care of a couple more corridors in the next couple days.
Was that your question, though, ma'am? That's what I thought.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
No, that's so that yeah. So the question is we had made a mention that they get paid by the units, completing the sheetrock and the units. But then the question was so the corridors are going to be done and the units are not. No, we're apologize for confusing you. So when we look at the production operation of sheetrock, we split it into 2 different components. We call about the units, right? So every living unit, we have to have a minimum of 4, but preferably 8 or more out ahead of the drywaller. They will bring in a certain production crew that goes through and does nothing but the sheetrock from the front door into the unit. So that's all the bedrooms, bathrooms, ceilings, everything. Now there's a different production crew that will come out if they both are released at the same time, and another production crew will take off and do the hallway stuff. So we're trying to get them all done as quick as we can. One of the things why we're trying to get the corridors caught up now, because we've talked about in the west wing of Building D, first through fourth floors are really close to finished, right? The last thing we want to do is create more dust in the hallway, and then people walk on into the room and bring the dust in. So we're trying to speed the process up of now that we've got all these corridors open, and it's just from the ceiling line down, a separate production crew, different than what's in the units, can come out and produce the installation of that sheetrock, hang that, get it taped, get the dust done so we're not dragging dust into finished units, especially as we start putting flooring in. So does that better help answer your question? There's lots of logistics going on with sheetrock. It sounds incredibly boring to most of you, I'm sure, but it is a logistical nightmare. And it's fun, though, but we're trying to make it happen all together.
Fun, you say?
Yes, I wake up every morning and say it's fun.
There are things more fun than sheetrock.
There is, no doubt. It's backbreaking work. So, great
Well,
question.
good question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry for the
Yeah, we got a few more
miscommunication
minutes. What other questions do I have? Anything?
anything. No? All right. Looks like our work is done here today, huh?
All right.
Jeez, finish early.
All right.
Not digging.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.